Grant,
Are you
Here.
Mr. Cuomo,
Yes.
Dr. Smith,
Yes, here.
Ms. Smith.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as it was last submitted to us?
I move.
Okay, moved by Dora. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Bob. We'll have the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yeah.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Cuomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. All right. First of all, we have some action items as recommended by Mr. Thompson. You're gonna, do you want to present these, Jeff?
Sure, I can present these. As most of you know, the terms that you're appointed to expire at some point. We have two current board of directors whose terms expire at the end of July. And in talking with President Smith, have reached a consensus that Board of Director member Gene Smith and Dora Grant are willing to serve another, I believe it's a 3-year term that would commence August 1st of 2020, and they would end July 31 of 2023. So I present those as action items A and B, and we need a motion and a second for those items.
Is there a motion to approve those action items?
So moved.
Israel, second,
Second.
and Bob. Roll, please.
Mr. Cuomo,
Yes.
Dr. Smith,
Yeah.
Mrs. Grant,
Dora?
Can you hear me? I said yes.
Oh, okay, very, very good, Dora.
and Ms.
Yes. All right, excellent. Dora, that we're in it now, 23. All right, we'll move on to the election of officers. We have, I'd like to open up the nominations for president.
Jane Bott here. I'm nominate you as president. You're well capable of leading this.
I'm not gonna say anything. That was pretty good, Bob, I must admit. Are there any other nominations? I do accept. We'll close nominations and have the, we need a second, I guess.
I'll second.
Okay. Now we'll have the roll, please.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Cuomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for that vote of support. All right. All right, now we'll open the nominations for vice president. Do I hear any nominations?
I nominate Ken Edwards.
I'll second.
Okay. By Israel, seconded by Bob. And I do have to tell you that I did talk with Kent and he was willing to accept that nomination. We weren't, I said I wasn't going to do it like he did to me one year where I was nominated and wasn't at the meeting. So we've got that official. We'll go ahead and have the roll, please.
Mr. Cuomo,
Yes.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Regarding the appointment of board liaison positions, I've communicated with board members prior to the meeting tonight. So we'll just kind of confirm your willingness to accept those positions. I have myself as legislative liaison. I have Bob as finance liaison.
Yep.
Okay. I have Israel as personnel liaison.
Yes.
I have Dora as professional development liaison.
Yes.
And I have Kent was willing to continue as the sponsor liaison. Is there a motion to approve the appointment of those liaisons as listed?
I move.
Dora moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. We'll put Bob a second. And I really want to express my appreciation to everyone to be willing to accept those positions. It's very nice to be able to spread those specialty areas around. So I really appreciate that. And I think it helps us as a board learn better what's going on at the school. So thank you very much. Did we vote on that, Mike?
No, we haven't. You good?
Okay, let's go ahead and have the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. I have before me now the resolution to set the regular meeting dates, and those have all been listed. Keeping in mind that right now they're listed as the second Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock. But you'll recall that oftentimes we change that to accommodate individuals, Ken in particular. But right now we'll leave it at 7 if that's all right with everybody. Is there a motion to accept the meeting dates as listed?
I'll move.
Dora, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Israel second. Any discussion? All right, we'll have the roll, Mike.
Mrs. Grant,
Yeah.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. And as the next item of business is approval of the minutes as presented, and that includes both the regular board meeting on June 16th as well as the special board meeting on June 25th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes as presented to us?
I move.
Israel, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Very good. Bob, second. Any discussion? We'll have the roll, Mike.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. And now we come to Mr. Keller. All right. So, Steve, would you like to enlighten us in terms of the sponsor?
Well, I will certainly try my best, everybody. Congratulations to Jean and Dora for another 3 years. And also Jean for board president. And Kent can't hear me, but also vice president. I wanted to let everybody know that the upload was successful. We have gotten everything in by Wednesday, July 15th. So last Wednesday, we pretty much worked on that for some time through, early part of July to get that done. I will tell you that our council, MLSD's council, felt very good about that. So that's good. The problem with that is we are compliant, non-compliant this year. Unfortunately, we cannot get a third straight year of effective, which would lighten our burden significantly with document uploads and so forth. So we will definitely have to submit next year, but we'll shoot for an effective rating next year to get those 3 straight years effective. We also uploaded the dropout prevention credit recovery application form. That was submitted on June 30th, as well as the blended learning application that was submitted on June 30th. So we had a pretty active late June and early to mid-July. And then finally, my last item of conversation is our council has asked me to put together a July monthly meeting still. So I am going to be doing that. That usually involves just Mike, Jeff, myself, Diane Keegan, and Denny Monk. However, Denny's on vacation to finish out his contract. So it will be us four. So I'll be reaching out to the other three to try to set a date for next week at some point so we can fulfill what is requested of us from our council, make sure we get that meeting in. And then come August, we'll be meeting with Ed and Jeff, Mike, and Diane, and myself. So that is the update. It doesn't seem like a lot, but we actually had a really busy early July here to mid-July, which it had been kind of dormant for some time, unless you consider the preparation for the upload, part of it. So thank you, appreciate it. And any questions?
Steve, what prevented the third year of compliance, of being able to get?
The pandemic. Many schools wanted to, kind of not have a rating system this year due to some of the things that they couldn't get accomplished. So the state agreed with that, and they basically decided on a compliant, non-compliant status for this year. The thing about that is you had to submit everything anyways, but you could, use COVID as a reason some things did not get accomplished.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Steve, very much.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Certainly. I have, the only thing I have to report is that tomorrow we're scheduled to have a meeting with the auditor, an exit conference. So after that meeting, I'll be sure either Jeff or Mike or I will communicate with the rest of the board the outcome of that meeting. But that's to take place tomorrow. We'll move on now to the treasurer's report.
Okay, hopefully you guys had an opportunity to look over a couple of emails I sent. The first one included the minutes, and then the rest of the financial reports. I'll start with the monthly reconciliation for June. At the end of June, we ended with 1.172 million. So that's our fiscal year. That's what we're going to start FY21 with as far as our cash balance goes. The next few pages are the check register for the month of June, as well as the outstanding checks. I didn't realize it, and I had sent out an email earlier this morning that included some notes with some of the checks that were different. We had a couple checks for our RESA program, which is our resident educator program. We have a resident educator, a coordinator, and a mentor for those teachers. Moving forward into next year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think we only have one now. So that'll be a lot cheaper in moving into next year. So that'll be a little bit less. We also had some checks for what we did for the graduates. We gave them caps and tassels instead of the full outfits. So Jostens, there was a couple checks. And then we had several tuition reimbursement checks. So that's kind of the check register for you. If there's anything else that you have questions on, feel free to stop me or, call me, email, whatever is easiest for you. Moving into the spreadsheet that I have for you. When we look at the whole fiscal year, that is basically the top left-hand side for our revenue. We were at about 85% of projected revenue. Different things, obviously, you guys know going to that. We have COVID. We have the announcement of the counties and things of that nature. But when you move downward to the expenses, we were at about a little less than 96% of expenses, which is right on track with where we wanted to be for expenses as far as that goes. As you guys know, revenue is a very hard thing to predict, now more than ever, but especially when we put together in July and August of every year, we're trying to predict what's going to happen for the whole fiscal year. As you guys know, now, that's a very difficult thing to do. As far as the monthly side goes, when we're moving over to June, that would be the top right-hand side. It was definitely down. If you remember last month, I told you that due to budget reductions, we seen about $100,000 hit, which is less than what we had anticipated originally. But we did take a hit with some of the state budget reductions, so we didn't get as much revenue for the month of June as we were expecting. As far as expenses, you can see we were about 95% of expenses. That's pretty good considering we had 3 bill runs. Again, if we go back to May, if you'll remember, I said we only had 1, and you could expect 2 Jefferson Health Plan bills and things of that nature. So we did pretty well on expenses for the month of June. One thing I'd like to point out to you is that the total FTE for June, so what we ended the fiscal year at, and what also the significance of this number of 1,078.66, which is on the very bottom left hand. That number is kind of, that is the number that Margaretta uses for several different things. It's going to be used for our shared services agreement. As you'll remember, our agreement is $315 per student based on June's count. That is what we're going to have to pay Margaretta for that shared services agreement moving forward. That number times 315 divided by the 12 months. So that's just one thing I want to make sure that everybody's aware of moving forward. Also, we will be giving 3% of our total revenue, state fund revenue, to Margaretta over the next 12 months. So the significance between those two numbers are whatever we end in June of the previous fiscal year, we will pay over the next fiscal year divided by 12. Hopefully that's not too confusing, but that's kind of where we're at with that. So that's kind of the significance of these numbers on this sheet. Any questions on this so far? No. Then again, I apologize. I don't know what I was doing. I printed out the month of June again for you, and normally what I do at this point is give you the month of July. So I had sent it out an email this morning with the July numbers. One problem I'm having is when I go to the school payment information site, every time I click on FTE numbers, it's taking me into the JVS number for some reason. So I wasn't able to get it, but I do recall it was about 1,043 FTEs for the month of July. Okay, so we're moving kind of forward. We're looking ahead to the month of July a little bit. And I also included the payment detail for the month of July in there, which is a really good payment. However, I also sent out a spreadsheet this morning. And in this spreadsheet, just the top of it, there's a list of vendors, and there's some approximate payments that we have, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or annually. Jean had asked me some of these things because I know it gets very confusing. A lot of things, we vote on a lot of things, and people think it's right. So there's kind of a list here of some things that we pay for on either a monthly, quarterly, or annually basis. But what I really want to point your attention to is the bottom half of this. So what this says is in our July payment, which what you need to remember is July is the first payment of the next fiscal year. So July, and then we have 11 more payments for FY21. As of right now, our total state support is based on that 1143 FTE. Okay. As we move forward, we don't know what our enrollment's going to be. That's what makes this so difficult. We've had some conversations with Jeff and Ryan and myself about where do we think we're going to be. That is a very difficult number to land on. Our best estimates, what we're anticipating is around 500. At 83% funding, which we've been doing, that's about 415 FTEs. So if you look at the top part of that little bracket at the bottom I have for you, you can see the difference between our actual funding for the July and our anticipated funding for the fiscal year. And there's a large difference between those two numbers. The one thing moving forward, I'm not saying it's going to be 500. It could be 700, it could be 800. I don't know. Time is going to tell with this COVID. How many parents don't want to send their kids to school because of it? These numbers are just, again, these are estimates. But if they come in at this number, the point of what I'm trying to say in this bottom half of this is that we would have been overfunded for the month of July. So in previous years, we've seen large catch-up payments in October, which essentially July, August, and September, you're funded at. Essentially, we've always been funded at our July numbers, but we've always outgrown that number. So we got a very large payment in October. Moving forward, do not anticipate that very large payment in October. I just wanted to put this out there. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I'm sure you guys do too, that it will be a lot higher than anticipated. But we need to be a little bit more realistic and say, this is where we're at now. This is what we're anticipating. When I come back to you in August at our board meeting and I say, this is our cash balance, I just want you to understand that cash balance could be eaten into very quickly if our enrollment doesn't reach specific numbers.
And Mike, I guess one thing I would ask you to do in August is to be sure to point that out to us, what the difference is between the actual versus the overpayment amount.
Absolutely. In August, we'll have a good thing about August for the month of July. We'll have a whole new spreadsheet with new estimates, and again, they're going to be estimates though, and we're going to look at it. We're going to monitor it very closely. I know I talked to Jeff earlier today about this. We're monitoring it as closely as we can. It's one of those things that is just so difficult to predict. We're following it as closely as we can, and we will definitely give you updates as we move forward.
Is there anything else, Mike?
That is all I have, unless you have questions.
Okay. One question that was posed to me was any extra money that we are receiving as a district because of COVID. Have we realized any additional funds or money at this point in time, either Jeff or Mike?
You had sent me that email. I don't know anything specific to that one, but previously there was that CARES Act where there's 300-some thousand, and that's in the CCIP that needs to be delegated to certain things, and we need to get in there. And that's one thing I'm currently working on for the other grants and things, and we'll have to delegate that to certain things and see what's allowable for it and move from there. But as far as that 100, I think it was 100 million, I have not heard anything on that yet.
Okay. Jeff, have you heard anything on that?
Yeah, there were some simulation models that came out this week. And again, I glanced at them because they're just not far enough along. But the number I looked at, the amount of money that they're projecting that Townsend would get in the simulation model is about an extra $49 per FTE. So it's not significant at this point. And again, that's if I looked at the model close enough and if my understanding of it is accurate enough. But as soon as we get a firmer number, we'll convey that to you and the board and let you know what that's going to amount to.
Okay. I had wondered about technology, if there was anything coming to us as far as helping students support any virtual learning.
A lot of the CARES Act, that COVID money, they've got it broken down into large areas, and one of them is you can use it for technology to operate remote. There's pockets or, like I say, broad areas that you can spend that money on. So I think the big thing for us is just to wait and see how much money that Townsend is going to be allocated. And my hunch is we're not going to have any problem spending the money. It's just a matter of how much is going to be available there.
Right. Very good. Is there a motion to approve the action items A through C of the treasurer's report?
Move. I'll move.
Moved by Dora, second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Israel. Any discussion? We'll have the roll, Mike.
Mrs. Grant?
Yeah.
Mr. Palomo?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Very good. Jeff, we'll move on to the superintendent's report and your recommendations.
Sure. Again, as a reminder, we had elections earlier tonight. There are standing things that happen every year at this meeting. So a lot of these recommendations are standing issues that we need to do, but I'll cruise through each of them real quick. Item A is a recommendation to waive the reading of the minutes, with the understanding that such minutes will be distributed to members prior to the date of each meeting. Recommendation to authorize the treasurer to invest interim funds for the upcoming school year. Authorize the treasurer to borrow necessary monies to meet current expenses if the need arises for this upcoming school year. D, authorize the treasurer to pay bills, provided the funds are available, report monthly to the board of directors those bills that were paid. E, authorize superintendent to approve or disapprove of applications for professional meeting leave for staff that conform to established board policy. and that are within the amount appropriated for such activities. F, authorize superintendent to employ such temporary personnel as needed for emergency situations and present to the board for approval at the next meeting. And G, the last one, recommendation to authorize the superintendent treasurer to act as the agents for the board in submitting applications and management of federal and state grants for the 2021 school year. So need a motion to approve items A through G. And if anybody has any questions over each any one of those individual items, I'll be happy to try and address those at this time.
Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve action items A through G?
Jane also moved.
Okay, moved by Bob. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll give that one to Israel. He was first, Dora.
That's okay.
Very good. We'll have the roll, please.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Jeff, did you have anything further to report?
No, I did talk with Principal Ryan Bone today. Enrollment is picking up. We're excited about that. We'll certainly, I think, have a clearer picture as we move forward now between now and the August board meeting. Once we start to get a little clearer picture, we'll send you some updates via email where our enrollment stands. As Mike alluded to earlier in the meeting, as a community school, we are extremely sensitive to enrollment. I mean, it's the big piece, and given what we're going through this year, it's bigger than ever. So we're watching it. We've taken steps. I sent out some other information to board members prior to this meeting, where we're having some positive feedback. We're just trying to get our message out. We're trying to let people know that we've done some changes. We're still the same old Townsend, but we've added more, and we think we have a lot to offer, especially going into this year. With what we're seeing in the press and the media, there's an awful lot going on in Ohio right now. I think a lot of the school districts are starting to hit the pause button on when they're going to open to buy themselves, if they can, another week or two to see what happens. I think that's probably a smart move. I know some of the larger central Ohio districts are doing that. So as soon as we get a clearer picture, I think Townsend's going to be able to take a look about that first full week of August and say, this is about where we're at. This is what we're going to do. And again, as I tell people, our ultimate fallback plan is we open how we close. There'll be some minor modifications, but we know we can do it. We're very fortunate that we're poised and positioned to do this very efficiently, very effectively. Our current students are used to this, so it won't be a big surprise. And I think there's going to be a lot of students statewide, a lot of parents statewide, they're going to have interest in watching COVID-19 infection rates and how that impacts them and what they want to do as far as schooling for the upcoming year. I think there are going to be a lot of parents that are going to want to say, do I want to send my kid to school, or do I want to keep them at home? And again, who knows? Maybe the state will trump us and say, well, this is how it's going to be. So lot of unanswered questions right now in public education across the state of Ohio. So interesting times. May we live in interesting times. We certainly are. But that's my report for tonight. If anybody ever has any questions, email me, call me, text me, whatever. I'll be more than happy to address any issues that you have. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Very good. Is there any other business that should come before the board from any of the board members? All right. Hey, my computer says 7:28. I want to be given credit for this, guys. Thanks everyone for your efficiency.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Israel moved. All right, Israel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. And I bet we're all in favor, right?
Yes.
You got it.
Yes, all right. Thanks, everyone.
Have a nice evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.